Konnichiwa minasan and welcome to Tokyo Shinjuku, where we're turning this old abandoned Japanese house into a Japandi retreat. In this video, we will be covering the top 10 renovation mistakes you can't afford to make in Japan. A topic that has been requested many times in the comments on my channel. And because of this, we have a renovation pro, Valerie Vivial, an up-and-coming young Japanese architect who will share with us some ideas and thoughts on these 10 super important things you can't miss renovating a house in Japan. As you know, Japan doesn't have a DIY and renovation culture as we do in Europe or in the US, and these 10 things might be very costful for you if you don't have them in the back of your head. Let's welcome Valerie. Hi Valerie!
Hello!
How are you?
Good! お邪魔します.
お邪魔してください. Good to see you.
Yeah, the place looks great.
Yeah, we're coming along.
Yeah, it's good, it's good.
So for the viewers, who are you, Valerie?
Well, I'm actually half Japanese, half German. Born and raised in Japan, so I'm more Japanese than I look. I studied architecture in London and in Copenhagen, and I came back to Japan to start my own career here. I worked in Japan and then I set up my own company, and we specialize in renovation and retrofitting buildings.
And Valerie is working on a huge project up in the ski slopes right now, and she's been also giving me a lot of advice for my previous renovation projects. And for this video, we want to have a young, up-and-coming Japanese architect to give us some great advice. Are you going to agree with my 10 things?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
We think so. Let's go.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom.
So point number 1, not consulting professionals such as Valerie or your builder or an architect when doing structural changes. So right here, we removed the wall, but we also added braces.
Yeah, it's great. I think most older houses, they don't have bracing, and you quite need that for earthquake proofing the house. I usually consult in a structural engineer, especially because we work on slightly bigger projects, but they always give input on the existing condition, and whenever you want to change columns, you can also discuss with them as well.
So for a beginner, you shouldn't just start tearing down walls or removing pillars and removing beams without consulting a pro, right?
Correct. I mean, you have a big issue with it collapsing if you do that. Yeah, definitely if you don't feel comfortable or if you're not sure, don't do it.
So you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night after an earthquake hits and your roof is going to fall down on you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Let's say, for example, you want to remove a pillar. What's the process for someone with no experience whatsoever? Obviously, they shouldn't just start removing things and removing walls and pillars. But if they wanted to do it, what would be the approach?
Well, I usually consult in a structural engineer or a builder who has enough knowledge. So I think if you first approach them and say, this is my ideal layout, I want to move this column, is it possible? And they usually would give advice on that, and you take it from there.
Perfect. So as you probably all know, a lot of Japanese houses are tiny, and all these pillars are usually sanshaku, goshaku, in between each other. So if you buy an old house, you'll most likely end up with pillars almost everywhere. And some of them are possible to relocate if you add beams in the ceiling or add earthquake braces like this. But always consult with a pro before smacking down walls in your Japanese house.
Oh, so is that beimatsu?
Yes, it is, bought from my local lumber. And that leads us to point number 2. Choosing the right material and the right wood. A beginner mistake is to choose white wood that's sold incredibly cheap in all the home centers, but it's not gonna look good and it will be eaten by termites. It's a shitty material. So always consult with an architect, your lumber, or a builder about what materials to use. Do you have any experience with white wood?
No, I don't particularly use it. I like actually to use a lot of engineered wood, especially flooring. There's pretty good ranges. I think Japan has a very big domestic market on materials.
Yes.
So it's very different to what people are probably used to. I would just go to the big material suppliers and check out their products.
So cypress, cedar, this we have hiba, this is pine. This is probably not Japanese pine, unfortunately. But as Valerie says, there's a huge range of different kinds of wood that has different aesthetics and different good and bad things with them.
Yeah.
So depending on your usage for the wood, you need to be careful with what you're choosing. This one is earthquake bracing, but they're also visible. So you want them to be strong, sturdy, but also beautiful.
And Japan has a very domestic market with wood. So for example, Japanese oak is called tamo, and it's similar to white oak, but it's more domestic. So they have many different types of wood that's like that. So it's always good to see and check in person.
So whenever I'm at the lumber, you sometimes see like made in Russia, made in China, and I also sometimes see made in Sweden. So for my previous house, we had pine wood on the walls, and that was actually Swedish pine. So is there any like rules and regulations if you want to import wood, or like is it mostly domestic wood sold in Japan?
I think the domestic market is getting smaller and smaller, so they're actually importing a lot more woods, and that's why you see it in your lumber yard. I think you need an importing license if you're doing it on a commercial scale.
Okay.
So maybe personal, it might be okay, but I can't say for certain. I know for commercial grade, you need to have some sort of import license.
So point 3, don't do plumbing by yourself. Do you agree?
I do agree. I actually think if you do it yourself, a lot of Japanese plumbers probably wouldn't want to touch it. So as much as possible, use a plumber.
While you technically can do it, if you only touch the pipes that's leading into your house, we wouldn't recommend it. And even if another plumber won't touch the pipes of yours, it might lead to very expensive water damage. Water is actually probably the most expensive damage you can have to a house.
Yeah, definitely. So if possible, consult in a plumber, even if you have a clear direction of what you want to do.
Don't do the plumbing by yourself. It might end up costing you a lot of money. And Japan has a very humid climate, and a small water leak will easily turn into rot. It will attract termites, mold, and that would be a very expensive mistake.
Indeed, I would always get a check before I start a project. One of the main things I would check is the mechanical and plumbing and electricity, because it's probably the most vital part of an existing house that you can't see. If you get that wrong at the beginning, it'll be costly at the end.
So do your plumbing as early as possible. Hire a professional, make them do it almost like right after demolition has been made, because we can't put in any flooring before plumbing is done, really. We agree on that.
Yeah.
Do we agree on the tiles? I already chosen my favorite ones, so which one's yours?
Okay. I think I know my favorite one.
Okay, which one is it?
Count down to 3 and then see. Okay.
3, 2, 1. Yes.
They all look great, so it's not a bad choice.
Yeah, people are saying this one.
I think that resonates more with the Japanese aspect. It's a very typical Japanese glaze.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's a little bit different or more Japan style. But this is also beautiful, so.
Are you saying that to be nice?
Well, it's white. I'm sure it'll look very clean in terms of the aesthetic.
It will. With the white grout, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which leads us to point number 4. Don't underestimate the climate and ventilate your house, and do that very well.
I think Japan is unusual in that compared to Europe, where in the summer months it's super humid and hot, and then in the cold winters it's quite cold. So that change in temperature, you really need to allow for ventilation. I think especially underneath the floor, it's really necessary to keep the building away from certain issues.
So in order to not attract termites, in order to not to trap the humidity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that will make the house go bad. That will be a sick house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What about heating and AC? Do you have any recommendation for where to put what? Where to put heating? So Japanese houses don't have central heating, no elements, and usually they're heated by split air conditioner units.
For example, I think in this house, one of the reasons why you're facing on that side is that the external equipment, if we can and there's a budget, we don't like the wall mounted units.
Yeah.
We prefer it to be the cassettes in the ceiling, or even like a linear diffuser one.
And the main thing you would recommend people to do is to do something about the windows, right?
Yes, Japan is very unique in that compared to, I'd say, European or UK standards, especially in Japan, you'd see a lot of these aluminum framed, single pane glasses.
I don't get that. Why would they build them in aluminum? It's like leading heat and cold, right?
Yeah, the cheapest solution is what you're probably gonna do is adding an inner sash.
Yeah, but doing that, we need to kind of like elongate this door frame here.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, because it won't fit in here.
Exactly.
So design-wise, I've actually had some issues with condensation with adding an inner sash. So ideally, you want to replace the entire thing.
Frame.
But that's costly.
Costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think just changing the windows of this house is about 15% of the entire renovation budget.
But you get some
You
subsidies?
get some subsidies as well.
Right.
So I think the government has about, what is that, $4 billion that they're giving out this year for energy efficiency if you want to change your windows. So please check with your maker or your architect if you want to get this free money. So number 5, one thing you definitely shouldn't be doing is touching anything related to this bad boy right here. This is the gas meter controlled by Tokyo Gas. We don't want any gas leaks, so don't touch anything related here. You see, the gas pipe is coming up here, and we're going to put a hot water boiler here. So we're actually heating this house by gas, with gas. We're not gonna have a countertop, or we're not gonna have a heater with gas. It's all electricity inside of the house. But the cheapest way to heat water in Tokyo is by a gas boiler. And another thing that you definitely shouldn't be doing in your house in Japan is number 6. This bad boy right here. Don't touch anything electrical in your house. And for that, we have a special guest on the 2nd floor, a Japanese electrician, Sato-san, who's been helping me a lot, not only with this house. He's great. Let's go and ask him some questions about electricity in Japan. So, I'm not doing any electricity work on my own. For that, we have my hero, Sato-san! So Sato-san has helped me with my previous projects, and now he's helping me out in the Shinjuku house doing all the electricity. 本当にありがとうございます。電気の資格が、そういう電気工事をやるには、日本では資格が必要ですかね。
そうですね。コンセント外すだけでも一応必要な資格になるので、それを取らないと一応やっちゃいけないというふうに法律で決まってます。はい。
でそういう資格を取るには、勉強時間はどれぐらいが必要ですか？
そうですね。ちまちまやってた。あとスマホで今アプリとかでも見れたりするので、ながら時間でやってて、1年ぐらい私はなんかちょっとずつやって、で筆記試験を受けに行った感じですね。はい、その後半年後ぐらいに年2回あるんですけど、はい、そのうち半年後にまた実技の試験、はい、2種類ですね。2種類を1回ずつやって合格するという形になってます。
っていうのは何もできないんですね。一般人がですね。
そうですね。基本はやはり電気目に見えないので、危ないっていうのもあって、一応資格を取らないとやっちゃいけないというふうになってます。
でっていうのはそういう海外の資格を持っていっても日本では電気の工事とかはできないですかね。
一応できないことになってるはずですね。そこまでちゃんと詳しくは見てないですけど、運転免許証の国際免許証みたいなのは確かなかったはずなので、できないはずですね。はい、あ
と日本のそういうなんか何ボルトとか何アンペアがありますか？
日本はお家に入ってくる600ボルトのアンペア数でいうと60アンペアが上限ぐらいまでの一般家庭のやつがありますね。そこまでぐらいだったらば基本は私のようにちょっと試験を受けて合格した人ができて、それより上のやつ高圧電線とか、ああいうのはまた別で資格が必要になってくるので、
それは別の試験があって、
そうですね、
取らないといけない
と。
難しいですね。
そっちもそれで難しいですね。はい。
So in this house, I want to have I want to up the breaker and I want to up the fuse box. And Sato-san is doing all the work inside of the house, but he doesn't have the qualification to put in a new cable from the street. で、そういうアンペア数をアップするための方を探さないといけないんですね。
そうですね。今知っている人たちで、そういう資格持っている人たちがいるので、その人たちに頼もうかなとは思ってます。
ありがとうございます。はい。Don't do electricity on your own. It's illegal and it might be dangerous as well. Leave it to someone like Sato-san. Number 7. Don't underestimate the costs, especially for trash disposal. If you watched my previous videos, 2 videos ago, we threw away loads and loads of trash. And here we are a few weeks later, and it's filled with hundreds of dollars of trash that would cost a lot of money to throw away.
I usually always suggest my clients to have some sort of buffer with their budget that they can keep as reserve, and then towards the end of the project, if it's looking good, they can potentially use it somewhere more on the design aspects that can be used, or just new furniture even.
Yes.
Something that will elevate the space design-wise.
I like that.
Yeah.
One thing foreigners often underestimate is the cost of trash disposal or the cost of just using middlemen in Japan. It's very expensive to just do the most simple tasks, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the closer you can get to the source, the cheaper it is. So if you can go directly to a disposal company, you'll definitely get the cheapest margin.
Talking about trash, which leads us straight to point number 8. Don't inherit furniture before your place is done. As you see right now, the place is huge, it looks huge, we don't have a kitchen in yet, and it's incredibly expensive to get rid of trash in Japan, so people will try and give you things for free. And sometimes these things won't fit in your place. Recycle-wise, it's great, but just don't take that responsibility before your house is done.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of different free websites that give away furniture. One's called Jimoti, there's Mercari as well, and Facebook Marketplace.
Yahoo Auction is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, so there's many different options, so there's no need to rush to get your furniture.
So when you buy an old Akiya, an old abandoned Japanese house, sometimes, in many cases, they're filled with the previous owner's stuff. And you can bargain on the house. If you're a cash buyer and you just want the owner to sell it as is, you usually get it for way below market price, but you will be in charge of the trash disposal. So have this in mind. It's very expensive, but you can make a good deal on the purchase price. Number 9, lights and lighting. Don't be cheap on that. In Swedish we have a saying, luften är fri, and using lights and lighting makes your house look bigger, nicer, and it will feel like a home. Also, Swedish and Danish winters are really fucking depressing. So
exactly. My experience living in Copenhagen, it was very dark in the winter and obviously very light in the summer. I think what's very important is that you look at the natural lighting.
Yes.
Try and get as much light in as possible. Sometimes it's a bit tricky in Japan because Japanese houses tend to look inward opposed to outward.
And my neighbor's house here is like 30, 40, 50 centimeters away, so it kind of blocks a lot of natural light.
Yeah, exactly. So one way to kind of work through that is having lots of different light sources, not just fixed ceiling lights, but I would put floor lamps or directional lights that kind of play with the different angles and spaces that will make it feel a lot more softer and more warmer.
So a practical example, can you give me some advice for this space? I will put a big mirror here because the sun is hitting right on this wall, so it will kind of reflect the light in this way. How would you do with the ceiling lights or the lights in general in this room?
Well, I think you already have some cutouts for the fixed down lights. You could put a wall lamp, wall sconce on there.
One will come up there?
Yeah, you can also just put a floor lamp that's directional, so you can adjust the angle.
Okay.
You can have multiple of them. You can also have like a table lamp as well, where the furniture will sit. Then you can also turn off the down lights when you want and just turn on the kind of more atmospheric light to create a warmer feel. And
usually Japanese houses and apartments have this one fluorescent like white light in the ceiling. I hate that one.
I'm with you, I absolutely hate it. It's a circular, very industrial, almost like a clinical light that they have in the main living space.
Zero coziness.
Exactly.
It's just like a hospital environment.
Exactly, so always use warm lights.
So number 10, treat your neighbors and your surrounding area with a lot of respect. One bad neighbor can make your life a living hell. So how do you treat your neighbors nice?
Well, in Japan it's very important to kind of be polite and always engage with them before you start anything. A little gift would always be welcomed. It's kind of the tradition to give something, and just, you know, be polite and just be aware that if you're the new people moving in, that they probably want to get to know you a little bit before you start making lots of noise and doing construction. Especially if you're doing renovation in a country as a foreigner where renovation isn't really a thing. So just going there, knock the door, hello,
My name is Anton. I'm the new crazy guy next door, and I will do some nice renovation here. That's how I've always done, and I haven't had any problems so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see how close you are to your neighbors, so you always want to be mindful of that, because once you upset the neighbors, you can have a lot of issues, and they can go to the council if it's really, really bad.
Yeah, just have some common sense and be nice to people, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're making buildings that aren't being used better. You're doing something better for the community, so a lot of people would appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Valerie.
No worries.
Even though you're not my neighbor, I would like to give you a small gift.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank
Free Houses in
you.
Japan, the book I wrote last year about buying and renovating houses in Japan.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Valerie's links is all down in the comments, so please check them out and let her know if you're interested in hiring her as an architect in Japan. So for the next video we will do some kitchen work, and we're finally going to see how the house will look. We've already chosen the tiles, we've already chosen the countertop, and that will be a great video, because by the end of that video the house will almost come to life. See you next week. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Bye.